Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about creating your own job, running your own business, working for yourself. And I feel like I've got the experience to talk about this because I created my own job from the age of 24 and I'm 48 now. So I've been doing this for 24 years, created my own jobs, worked for myself, done my own thing. So I wanted to go back and talk to you about where I started. Now, when I was 14 and 9 months, I got my first job at McDonald's and I stayed working at McDonald's for 10 years basically. I did leave a couple of times for short bursts that lasted for either like 1 month or 3 months where I decided I'd go off and try something different than McDonald's. But I always found myself running back to McDonald's like a little bit of a security blanket because the other jobs just totally bored me. One was in a clothing retail store. One, I went on to be a reservations manager in a hotel, both which just made me totally uncomfortable wearing like these business suits, and I just absolutely hated it. I didn't like it. I liked the fast pace of McDonald's. I liked the community that I had at McDonald's, and I did really enjoy my time working at McDonald's. However, I knew that I didn't want to work in fast food for my entire life. But at the age of 23, I fell pregnant with my daughter, and by the age of 24, she was born. And I knew in my life, right from when I was very young, my life goals were to get married and have babies. That was all I wanted. I wanted to be a mum, and I wanted to be a mum that stayed home with the children and did all the mum kind of stuff. I didn't want to be a working mum, so to speak. So when I fell pregnant at 23, I immediately started thinking, what can I do from home to be able to generate a little bit of extra money that will be able to keep me at home with this baby? And I kind of had an opportunity that just fell into my lap then. My mum had a friend who was moving to Melbourne, and she'd had small children, and she was running a little business that was a little franchise, but she was running it just from her home garage. And that franchise was called Hire for Baby. And basically what it was a little business that ran from home and hired out baby equipment, hired baby prams, baby strollers, baby seats, baby high chairs, baby cots, baby portable cots, baby car seats, whatever it was to do with a brand new baby, but you kind of hired it out for people who were traveling interstate and didn't want to bring all the baby equipment, so they'd just hire it for the holiday that they were coming for. Sometimes I had a whole lot of baby high chairs. I would hire them to the hotels when they would have extra functions where they needed more high chairs, Mother's Day or different things. So I bought that business from my mum's friend, and to be honest, I can't remember how I bought it, but I think my parents must have helped me out at the time, because from memory it cost me about $10,000 to buy into that franchise. So I did that franchise from home in my garage for maybe a few years, and by that stage I'd had a second baby, and I was doing this business, but I didn't really love it. Like I don't know, I was cleaning these pram stroller wheels with a toothbrush, and where after every single time somebody had hired it, or they'd bring back the high chair and it was dirty with food and I'd have to scrub the high chair straps, and there was just a whole lot of stuff that I just didn't really enjoy about it. But it was keeping me busy and it was getting me into learning about how to run a business from home. But I ultimately knew I didn't want to continue doing that business for very long. So after a few years, I decided to sell that business. And by that stage, I had a couple of children, maybe even 3 children, and it was starting to, life was busy. And I was in this era with my children where I was hosting big birthdays parties for them all the time. I loved being that mum who did the big over-the-top birthday party and everything was themed and pretty and cakes, and I loved that. Like I loved just being a mum. So I ended up creating my own job then, running my own party business. And I had this idea because it was something that I was loving at the time. And I think this is very important when you create your own job, to create jobs around things that you love doing. And at that time, my life revolved around either going to a lot of birthday parties or putting on a lot of birthday parties. It wasn't just birthday parties, it was Christmas functions and christenings and you name it. Parties within the school and all that kind of stuff. I created my own party business, and I spent a long time researching before I did it on the internet And I got to the point where I started an online party shop. I was importing party supplies over from America and also Australia, but a lot of it came from America, all the themed party plates and everything like this. So I basically created a job around an interest that I had at the time and something that was part of my life at that time. Like at the moment, in this stage of my life, that would not be an interest of mine. I don't host parties anymore. Guys, I'm well and truly over hosting big parties now. I can't think of anything worse. But at the time, I created that job because that was something that I was loving at that particular time in my life. And I did that business for, I would say 5 or 6 years. I continued with the party business. And I will say I didn't really make a lot of money in that. In fact, I probably lost money because I had to borrow money. I was stupid. I made mistakes. I borrowed money against the mortgage at the time to be able to buy all the inventory that was going to be required for it. And to be honest, I kind of dived into that business without a lot of business knowledge. And I don't know if I'd say the business actually failed, but I certainly made a lot of mistakes and I learned a lot of lessons, but I also absolutely loved every single moment of it. So I never really think of myself as failing. I probably lost money on that business, but the experience that I got from it, it was absolutely invaluable. After I did the party business, it kind of got the next stage of my life was I was loving taking photos of my children. My daughter was getting to that age where she was a little poser in front of the camera. She was loving it. She loved the camera. She was beautiful with her long hair. And, the boys weren't into the photographs as much as she was, but she loved being photographed. And I had like a younger daughter as well by this stage who was just absolutely cutest little thing. And I just wanted to capture every single of it. The boys just weren't into it. They were like, nah, get the camera away from me. But anyway, I started to have this real interest and I could tell that taking photos was something that I really, really enjoyed doing. And so it kind of got to the point where I decided to upgrade my camera and teach myself how to do proper photography. And so while I was learning photography off YouTube, and before that, I'd never used YouTube for anything, but I started Googling onto YouTube how to use the camera. And so I started taking more and more photos of my kids. I started putting them onto my personal Facebook page. And I kind of had an eye for it. Straight away, I kind of had an eye for doing photography and started getting a lot of friends. Can you take photos of my kids? Can you take photos of my kids? And I think this is how a lot of mum photographers almost start their business. They develop this love for it, and then other people start asking them. And so I was getting all these friends asking me to take photos, and I was loving it. So I was taking their photos, and then I kind of realized, well, maybe I could turn this into my next business. And that is what happened. I became Melissa Ellis Photography, started my own business, and voila, thanks to Facebook, I was able to start a Facebook page. I'd learned how to make a website from the party business. So I was able to go and make my own website for the photography site. And again, I just created my own job from doing a skill at the time that I loved doing. It was just something that I was thriving in at the time. And I'm the type of personality, when I find something that I love doing, I like hyper focus and almost obsess on that. So I was like obsessed of learning how to take photos, how to get better at them, a certain editing styles for the camera. I was obsessed wanting to take my own kids out all the time or find friends' kids that like could model for me and I could get their photographs. And there was elements to the photography that I struggled with. One of them was self-worth. Because even though I loved taking these photos, I questioned myself all the time because I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I was good at taking photos. I had a nice, clean editing style. Everybody loved it. But I personally suffered with imposter syndrome of going into this business where there's people who had been to uni and studied photography and were so technically smart at knowing how to use the camera. And that was not me. If you had put me into a photography schooling class and said, learn how to shoot photography, I would have failed because I'm not a technical type of learner. I learn from doing, and I learn from seeing something and going, I want to do that. How can I do that? So I would look at photographs, look at the style of them, look at the editing style of them, and then I would go to YouTube and I would work out how do I photograph in that particular way and how do I edit in that particular way. But technically, if you asked me how do I shoot on the camera, I would have been like, I don't know. I know how to shoot how I want to shoot, but I don't know how to shoot every single style of photos because that's not the style. So I developed my own style of photography, which other people loved. And that was fine, but I really suffered with the imposter syndrome. And there's all these big photographers out there who are, you know, going in the awards and winning awards. And here I was wanting to enter the awards, and I very much struggled with that. And then that also caused me to struggle with how much to price my photography photos with, and my photography sessions. I was doing a lot of sessions for friends for either free or for cheap. I wasn't really valuing my own time because for me it was just something I loved and I wanted to keep learning. But it gets to a point where there's only so much like you have to start making money from this because like I needed the money and I couldn't just be doing everything for free. But I really, really struggled with valuing my own time and valuing my self-worth because of the imposter syndrome that I was suffering from with photography. So after a while, I think because I undervalued myself and I wasn't getting paid for my worth, and then the photography business, I was shooting families and kids. So they would come to me on the weekends mostly, and you'd always have to photograph at the end of the afternoon to get the nice afternoon sunlight, or else you could do first thing in the morning, but I'm not a morning person, so it was always late afternoon for me. And the problem was families, kids, they'd get sick, they'd cancel on me, I have to reschedule, can we postpone, my kid is sick, or the weather, it would start to rain, we can't do the shoot now, we have to postpone. So what was happening is there were some weeks where I was having all my photograph sessions booked in on the weekend, and then due to sickness or due to weather, they were all getting postponed, and then those weeks I would go with no money. So there was financial struggles there because the money wasn't consistent and the money wasn't routine, I guess. I wasn't getting a weekly paycheck, so to speak. And I also wasn't charging enough. So what was happening was if I had charged more for my other sessions, it would have covered me for the weekends when there was issues with weather or people with sickness, because I would have been making enough money. But because I was only just kind of charging the bare minimum rate, all the money was getting used up. So there was issues that I learnt with the photography business, but there were skills that I learnt going into the photography business that I'd learnt from the past two businesses that I'd created for myself. In the end, I'd been doing photography again for around that 5-year mark. It seems to be my thing, the 5-year mark. then I kind of get bored, or it's maybe not even that I get bored. But I think you have to get to a point with a business where you realize this isn't working for me or this is working for me. And if something isn't working for you, I'm not the type of person who's afraid to pivot. And I did that even with my reselling business. I started with clothes and shoes and pivoted to books. I'm not afraid to pivot if I can see something is not working, or if I start to lose the enjoyment for something. I'm not the type of person to just sit in something and be bored for the rest of my life. There's way too many other shiny things out there that I can do that will interest me. Now, the reason why I kind of ended, I think, with the photography was, one, I was starting to feel a little bit of resentment about not being paid for my worth, because I knew I was good, but I knew I wasn't getting paid what I was worth. I was struggling with the self-worth. Also, like, I would send a photo session out to a client, and if I didn't hear back from that client with almost validation that they liked the photos, I struggled with not having the validation that they liked the photographs. And if I never heard back from them, I used to lie awake at night like, oh my goodness, what if they hated the photos? What if they hated it? Oh my God, I feel terrible. Should I have redone it? Like, especially if they had a child that was hard to work with, you know, I would always come back from a photo session and be like, oh my goodness, I failed. That was terrible. I've got no photos of that kid. They ran around. They didn't look at me. And I would really, really stress about that. And then what was funny was I would be stressing about these photos that I'd never even heard back from these clients. And then 3 months, 6 months down the track, they'd message me and be like, Mel, we love the photos so much. We want to book in for our next family session or our next mini session. I'd be like, what? I stressed over your order for that long thinking that you didn't like it. And that was never the case. So, yeah, mental game. I learned a lot about, you know, having to be mentally strong, I think, with the photography business. But in the end, I kind of had some health problems towards the end of my photography business. I was struggling with some health issues, and the photography was taking a little bit of a toll on my body. Like carrying the equipment all the time in backpacks was very heavy. Physically, I was not really struggling with that, and everything just became kind of negative with it. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to have a few months off the photography. And I actually needed to have some surgery. So I decided I'm going to have a few months off. I'm going to have this surgery. And then afterwards, I'm sure I'm going to feel better and I'm going to go back to my photography. But during the few months off, very, very conscious. I've got 4 kids by this stage. I've never been like a big business owner where I've had staff or had these big goals of having big businesses. My dreams were always to create a job that I could just do from home, work around the children's life basically, and make a little bit of extra money that was on the side to my husband at the times. So while I'm off for this few months of doing my photography, I'm like, what can I do to make money? Over on Instagram, found the reselling community and was like, oh, I can do this. I actually found the sneaker community first, and they were flipping brand new Nikes from the factory outlets. And that's how I got into my reselling. Started flipping Nikes from the Nike outlet here, and did that for a little while until Nike started asking me some questions on whether or not I was reselling their products. I then went into panic mode and started looking at the secondhand items in the charity shops, because that's what I could see was going on in the reselling community on Instagram. So I started selling shoes, clothes, books, you name it. I became the everything seller. And when COVID hit and all the stores closed and I was having trouble sourcing inventory to be able to list onto eBay, that is when I put call outs on Facebook looking for books. And at the time there wasn't many, not nearly as many booksellers as there is now, probably thanks to my channel. But there wasn't as many booksellers, and I was able to put a call out for books, and I was inundated. My house became full of books, and next minute, before you know it, I became a bookseller, and I created a new job of basically being a bookseller. Now, through my reselling journey, I always just wanted to keep this as a business where I just worked from home. Again, even though my kids were starting to grow up, they were becoming teenagers, still lived in an area where buses were hard to go to school, and I was still doing the back and forth school runs, medical appointments, and all the different stuff that is involved with running children and running a household. Now, things changed for me when I separated from my ex-husband just over 2 years ago. And suddenly I'd gone from having to be this secondary income earner to now I was solo out on my own. I have to make my own money. I have to have a full-time wage. I've got all the bills to pay now on my own. Now, my reselling at the time was being used as like a secondary income. I was never earning me a full-time income. Even though it was kind of my full-time job between running around with the kids, it wasn't really a full-time job in terms of income that was coming in. But all of a sudden, when I'm in a situation now where I'm solo, I have to make enough money to pay the bills. So what have I got? I've got 2 options. I either keep doing what I'm doing and ramp it up to the next level that's obviously going to be making me a full-time income, or I have to go out and get another job. Now, after 22 years of working for myself and running my own schedules, I almost felt like I was unhirable. Now, I've got a lot of skills that a lot of employees would take, and they would love to have me on board, and I work hard and I hustle, but I almost do feel like I am unhirable because I'm so used to running my own things, changing my mind on things, doing things my own way, starting work at the time of day that I feel like it. If I want to have a day off, I have a day off. If I want to work late at night, I work late at night. So it's very hard for me to have a normal job. And I just don't think it's something that I will ever have, a normal job. I don't think I'll ever in my life go and work for a business again. Like, I just won't. I am here on my own forever. So really for me, when I went through this marriage separation, I didn't have a choice in this matter. I wanted to keep working for myself. I wanted to keep making my own rules. I wanted to be my own boss, and I had to ramp this business right up. So I've gone from being in the house, working in this little home garage, to now being in this big warehouse, and realistically doing the books at the level that I was doing was not going to make me a full-time income. I had to be able to increase the amount of listings that I had, and I had to scale up the business, and I had to scale it up fast because I didn't have enough money to pay the actual bills. So I had to scale this business up fast. And the only reason I think that I was able to do that is because of the 22 years of experience that I had in every other job, and all the business knowledge and all the skills that I've learned and all the mindset changes that I've had to learn myself by being self-employed. I was able to take all that information that I had and scale this business up because of all that knowledge that I'd learned over the years. So I love the fact that I was able to keep my business small at a level that I wanted to while that was my situation. And then when the situation was changed, I was able to pivot and scale myself right back up to the point now where I am earning a full-time proper income for the first time in my whole life. Like, I'm actually earning now a proper income that covers, all my bills with a little bit extra. Now, I get a lot of questions since I've scaled up this business about why I don't hire any staff and when am I going to hire staff. And I never used to get those questions when I was working at home in the garage, because I was just working at home in the garage. But to be honest, guys, I don't really want to hire any staff. So I've always wanted to create my own job, but I don't necessarily think that I've wanted to create like this mega business. So let's take Tom for an example. Tom is my boyfriend, and he does exactly the same as me, but on a different level, right? So he sells books, CDs, and DVDs. We both do, except I'm on this level scale and he's on this level scale. And his dreams and desires are to be this level scale. And my dreams and desires are still to be at this scale. And it's not that I don't want to push myself. I want to be the best version of myself that I can, and I want to run a successful business that is not just paying the bills. I want to run a business that's not only paying all the bills, but it's earning that extra money to save for investments and retirement and my future self, and live a life that I absolutely love. But I truly believe that I can still do that while working on my own. And so I think of myself as creating a job that I love. If I create a job that then requires staff members, or I've got to chain and ball around my ankle a little bit, because then I've got to run my business in a little bit of a way. Like, if I've got an employee turning up at 7 o'clock in the morning, guess what, guys? I've got to turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning. And you know what, guys? Sometimes I like to turn up at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I kind of feel like I'm struggling a little bit with the mentality of scaling this business up, I guess, to another level of where I'm hiring staff. And I don't know if that's what I want, and that's why I'm not jumping into the decision of hiring somebody else. The other thing that I've done is create a business around YouTube. Now, YouTube, I will say, is the most favorite business that I've ever created in the whole 24 years. I love making YouTube videos. It's my favorite thing. I can't believe the skills that I've learned. I've learned more from starting a YouTube channel than any other business, for sure. And I've learned more about myself, and I've been humbled, and I can't tell you how much. One day I'll make a video talking about how YouTube has changed my actual life, because it truly has. It's totally changed my life. But I've worked up YouTube now to the point where YouTube is making me an income and eBay is making me an income. So between the two incomes, I don't feel like I need to scale up my eBay business to a level that I don't actually want to be at. I want to maintain the flexibility that I've got of how I run my own eBay store without the pressures of having staff. I don't think that's the type of business that I always dreamed of having. It is the type of business that Tom dreams of having. He dreams of being like, this big business. But I don't. I like just creating my own job for me, just for me. I don't know. So all I want to kind of say to you guys is, create the type of job. You can create a job for yourself. You don't have to work for the man. You do need you do need a different kind of mindset to work for yourself, I think. Then you don't get to just go to work, turn up, do your hours, 9 to 5, walk away every single week with a regular stable paycheck and then sit around all on the weekends and have fun and go and do whatever you want. When you work for yourself, it doesn't work like that. You have to have a different mindset. You have to be prepared for the roller coaster of some weeks sales are low, some weeks sales are high. Sometimes you have to have the mindset that you just have to do more. You have to work long hours. A lot of people say to me, you work really long hours. Yes, I do, guys, because now I have to make my own money. And also that's another thing. If I bring in employees, that's taking I almost have to really know that I can increase the business even more than it is because I'll be paying staff. So if I want to bring in staff, I can't just keep the sales at the level that they are now because I still want to be earning the same paycheck that I'm earning. But to pay somebody else, I've got to increase it 3 times the amount almost. So now I feel very blessed because I've gone from having one income to having multiple income sources. And having multiple income sources has definitely given me a little bit more security, and it's just taken a little bit more of pressure off the eBay, so that if I do have slow weeks on the eBay, well, it's okay. I'm also making some income here from YouTube. So I think anybody can create their own job. If you're the type of person that hates your job or hates working for somebody else, there's no reason why you can't create a job for yourself. But I would say create a job around something that you love doing and that you have interest in. Because when you take a job from being when you take something from being a side hustle, let's say you've got a full-time job and you're doing a bit of reselling on the side and you like it, it's very different, and you need a very different mindset to go from a hobby seller or a part-time seller into a full-time seller. You do have to have a different mindset around it, and it's not for everyone. And sometimes it's really hard if you're in a relationship and one person is the type of personality like me, who's a little bit of a free spirit and wants to go out and try all these new things and create their own jobs. And sometimes those jobs take a while to make more money. Sometimes we create jobs that just make enough money, but we're happier. Do you know what I mean? But it's really hard if you're in a relationship and you've got a partner who just wants the security of having the regular job, the 9 to 5, bring home your weekly paycheck, get your 4 weeks holiday a year, paid holiday leave. Like, it's very hard if you've got two people in the relationship to work that. You have to really have a level of understanding. And I think the reason why Tom and I work so well together is that we're both exactly the same. He has a different scale of level that he wants to, but we both totally understand each other. We both totally understand that there's days when we just have to work late hours, or we have to forfeit doing something else because we have to work a little bit more, because we are the only ones who are controlling the amount of income that we bring into this business and we control that by how much work we actually get done in our days and how productive we are and what we're actually doing that is making us money within the day. Because we can work for ourselves, but if you're not doing tasks that are actually involved around making the money, like when I spend days in here where I'm just cleaning and sorting and shuffling things around, that's not really making me any money. I make money when I sit on my butt there and list at the computer and get things up listed for sale so people can actually come and buy them. I've just been reflecting on that, I think. I think it's because my daughter, she just is about to turn 24 in the next couple of weeks. And that's the age that I had a baby and that I went off and started doing all my own things. And I'm kind of looking at her now and looking at where she is in her life and wondering, like, I wonder, she's very much like me. So I'm kind of like wondering, is she going to kind of, after watching me live this kind of lifestyle, I wonder if she's going to want to do the same things when she has children. I guess also how lucky I am to have been able to create my own job, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And honestly, please don't ever feel like you can't go out and create your own job. I've heard the story about a lady who created her own job picking up dog poo. And now she even has staff. So she's not only just created a job for herself at the time, she's now created like a big business where she hires staff who all go out and pick up other people's dog poo. And like, really, you can create a job out of nothing. It doesn't matter what you do. Find something. I'm sure that lady didn't necessarily love picking up dog poo, but she found a gap in the market. And maybe she loves dogs. And if she loved having the flexibility to work from home, and maybe she had kids that she could go along and they could all pick up the dog poo together to start with. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe she made it into like a game. I don't know what the situation is. I personally wouldn't want to create a job picking up dog poo. But it just goes to show you can create a job from nothing. You can create a job doing whatever you want. It doesn't matter what it was. If you don't want to work for the man, don't work for the man. Create your own job. There's unlimited supply of money out there. And if you've got a skill or something that you can do that other people don't want to do, you can turn that into a business. You can create jobs out of thin air. It doesn't matter what it is. Find something that you enjoy doing. Find something that you love. Don't be afraid to go and try something. Also, I'm not just saying like, if you're a solo person, this is your only income, just quit your job that's paying you $100,000 a year and go and create, you have to kind of work your way into it. If you want to create your own job, sometimes you've got to start as a little bit of a side hustle. There are certain personalities of people who just are not meant for working for the man. We're not we're not made. There's certain personalities that are just, we're too free-spirited and we're not made for working for other people. So anyway, guys, I just want to offer you some encouragement that if I can do this, you can do this. Don't be afraid to trying something. If you struggle with imposter syndrome, that is actually a normal feeling, especially when you're going into like a business or a genre like I was, especially with the photography. And I know there's a lot of people that feel like it with the reselling. They feel like an imposter, like there's all these other people out there that are doing it. They know what to buy. They're very successful. Nobody knew that when they were first started. Everybody's just learned it as they go. It's the same with YouTube. There's an imposter syndrome out there. People are very fearful of starting YouTube. And I think sometimes people feel like when they start a YouTube channel that they're kind of going onto YouTube and claiming that they're an expert. And that's not the case. You come onto YouTube and you talk about your own experience. You document your own life. You talk about I did this. I tried this. I do this. You don't necessarily have to come out there brand new on YouTube and try and be an expert. How to do this, how to sell this, how to make this. Like, come out there and share your own life experience and just document your story, and you won't have to feel like an imposter in like this big wide world. Anyway, I don't know. I just needed to talk about that. I don't know why. It just was on my mind and I felt like it. If you want to create your own job, know that you can, and that you can create your own job at any level. If you don't want to grow to massive business with employees, you don't have to. Create a job where it's just you. Right, that is it. I need to go and get a drink. My mouth is going dry. Thank you guys for listening to me and my thoughts. I really appreciate you. Bye.